Hey guys, so today I am going to do, for the first time, I'm gonna show you how I study, okay? We're gonna study wine, obviously, and why would you watch this? I don't know, it's kind of like if you're studying wine, it's cool to see how wine can be studied. If you just want to understand the world of wine and how vast it is, this is a great way because it gets pretty intense. So I want to just show you right from the beginning. I have about an hour and like 10 minutes right now to study, so that's going to be pretty quick. Usually I like to get more into it, get the flow state going, but let's just get into it right now. Okay, so there's a few things that I do when I start. This is going to be pretty practical, like explainer, but also you're going to learn stuff about the region that we're studying, okay? So I like to get myself situated. Here I have, and then by the way, this little guy here down there, he's gonna be to if we need more space to like search things up or something, or just so you can see what's going on my other monitor. But what I like to do is right now I've been using something called Canva, which you probably know about, but I've been using it for my notes because basically apparently this is a great way to study. I like to change the way that I study a lot because otherwise I get bored, and so some topics will be on paper, other topics are in flashcards, other topics are I don't know, like literally on the wall all over the place. So right now I'm into mind maps, and thanks to my friend Aldo Som, who really pumped them up to me. So I go into here and I pick one, and I like to make sure, that I really feel like it resonates with me, the design. So that's important to me. Sometimes I do things for reasons that people don't understand, and they ask why, and I'm just like, I don't know. So that's why we picked this one today. I don't know why. I like to have different ones for different topics just because I'll show you one that I did yesterday, or one that I'm working on still. For example, what's a good one? A lot of them are just kind of like in progress still, but here it gets chaotic, okay? If you're type A, I'm so sorry in advance. But this was the islands of Italy. Today we're gonna do, let me show you what we're gonna do. Italy wine map. Oh, I'm all over the place. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my thing from yesterday after this. But the first thing I like to do is go to images and literally just pull up a map of Italy, because that's what we're gonna look at today. It's a pretty big topic, but we're going to narrow it down a little bit. Not much, so unfortunately. We're going to do central Italy. Again, it's got to resonate with me, even if it makes no sense why it does. I just feel drawn to things sometimes. Bonus points if we get to see hills, but we need to see the wine appellations, like the boundaries of the wine regions, so that's not going to work for us today. Madeline makes really nice maps. Let's use this today. Okay, so I'm just like randomly pulling. Oops, no. I'm just like basically taking them, and these are for my personal use, so I don't really mind if they were really nice and sent me a copy of what happened to it? The actual wine foley maps. But I'm not going to use the physical ones today because we're on this medium. So we have a medium quality thing. But okay, part of the process of my studying, this is honest, it's just like, it's pretty rough sometimes. Like, you're just getting in there to do it, and you don't have that much time necessarily. If you get caught up in making everything perfect, it's not really going to work. So you're gonna just end up in rabbit holes all the time. So there we have Italy. We're gonna focus not on Tuscany because that's a whole can of worms, and not on the north. We're gonna kind of go here from Emilia Romagna. We're gonna include Lazio, all the way mainland, okay? We're gonna do an overview. So mainland, southern Italy, so not the islands. We're going to do central / southern Italy, not Tuscany, no Tuscany. I already did Tuscany, and actually those ones are on flashcards, so like I said, always switching them around. Let's just put central southern Italy minus Tuscany and islands. Okay, so there we are, right? We got a map. we kind of understand what's going on a little bit. I'm gonna move this over because we need more space here for this. So there we go. Now I'm greedy. I want more maps. I want a map that is going to show us more detail about the actual appellations. So I like it when the text is actually inside of the appellations themselves. So like when you zoom in and there's not too many lines pulling them away. So this is a little bit chaotic because it includes like all of them, but so many maps to choose from. Okay, we're gonna do this. This is gonna be a very quick overview because how can you cover all of this in an hour? That's crazy. I'm a crazy person. So I'm gonna put this over here because it's very detailed. So when we need that level of detail, we're gonna use that. Okay. So then I like to pull up this thing called Guildsom, and it has a bunch of different resources for wine. It's kind of like, it's not sponsored, this video, but I actually use this a lot. So I'm distracted now. Italy, where are you? Sometimes you gotta do a little cheeky Command F. There we go. Central and Southern. Okay. I use this from Guildsom, and then I like to have this as well. I'll keep kind of a map tab usually open, and then let's pull up Guildsom again. So this is a guide that goes through and it kind of explains what's going on in all the regions. They have normal guides, study guides, and then expert guides, which get really detailed, and they're just too much, I find, for the quick little overview. So then I'm gonna pull up the Wine Law Compendia, and that has a bunch of wine laws, also producer profiles. Okay, let's pull up maps too and see what Guildsom has going on here. Italy, Central. Oh, that's it. Oh. Well, you know what? Why don't we're gonna leave out the very south, okay? Let's just look at, normally I have more direction when I'm studying, but today it's a really quick session. Okay, I prefer this one. So we're gonna do Abruzzo to Calabria. So southern Italy. We're gonna go Italy, south from Abruzzo minus islands. Okay. I also want to make sure that the scope works. I do have, and you'll see here, a list of everything that I study day by day, but sometimes things I'm already familiar with I'll cover with less detail, and other times I just switch them around. So like today was supposed to do cocktails, but I didn't really feel like it, so I didn't, and that's why we're doing Italy. Okay, so producer profiles. This is, so when you're studying wine, producers are really important because we don't have a producer profile for this area, so we're not going to use that today. But they're really important because they are the people that make the region generally. So you have important producers, important winemakers in the region. Like if you take the winemakers out, you just have land and vineyards. So in order to make great wine from those places, you need to have great people doing things. And the question is like, what are they doing it? What are they doing? How are they doing it? It's important to know. And also, sorry to jump all over, but it's important to get all set up here. So we have our Tuscany. We have this thing which we don't need anymore. We have the compendium. I'm going to go back to talk about producers again. We have region by region. So we are looking at Abruzzo, Molise, Puglia, Basilicata, Campania, Calabria. That's a lot, okay? But we can see here each appellation. So an appellation is like an area that's defined and often has rules attached to it, and you have to follow the rules. So if you click on the appellation, in Italy they're called DOC, DOCG, or also IGT sometimes. You can see here there's a lot of rules. So if you make rosé in Abruzzo, it has to be minimum 85% of the Great Montepulciano. Now, obviously, there's a lot of information according inside these rules, and every single one of these things, guys, they all have rules. So you can't know them all. but it's a good reference point. If I'm kind of confused and I want to see like what makes the grape in this region different from a different one, then I'm gonna pull it up, okay? So it's there for reference. Let's pull this map into here. That doesn't like when I do that, so I'm gonna have to like this. Thanks, Guildsom. We love Guildsom, guys. It's paid, but it's definitely worth an investment. Okay, if you're studying like this. So I'm gonna pull all of that over there because I've been doing this cool thing where I go like this, lay the map over, and then point to the regions, okay? So I'm just very visual and this really helps. Boom. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna talk about producers a little more as we go region by region, but let's just start. So, oops. So we don't need Tuscany, right? We're gonna go right to, we weren't gonna do a Marque? No. Sorry for my pronunciation. I do try, but I'm also speaking English, so I don't want to go in full like mode in the middle of my English as well. So, yeah. Anyways, so we're gonna start here. So what I like to do, this is not like always the case. Like I said, I get bored and stuff. So, whoops. No. I want it to like this. Take the color of that background. Boom. Okay. And I'm gonna actually make this smaller and this bigger so we have more to work with visually. Okay, it doesn't want to get any skinnier. It's like, no, leave me alone. Okay, so there we have that. Let me actually move, whoops. Move this. I'm gonna make it, no, you know, I'm gonna take it away for now because I feel like we're not using it. Okay, there we go. So here we go. Abruzzo. This is gonna be Abruzzo. And I'm actually gonna pull him all the way up here because he's the most northernly one that we're talking about today. And let's just do that. So, Abruzzo. I'm excited right now, so I'm gonna put it in caps. And I'm gonna make it bigger so we can see it nicer. Abruzzo. So what is going on in Abruzzo? My mom told me never to wear purple and red, so we're gonna have to fix that issue right now. I don't really like this color. It's not that nice. So let's go with a light pink. It's not very nice either. It's like a weird salmon tone. Whatever. Okay. Abruzzo, where are you? Again, cheeky little Command F gets us to search. Abruzzo. So, I'm learning a lot of this stuff like for the very first time? No, absolutely not the first time. Sometimes I get like in my head when I'm talking. But I'm going deeper than I have gone, or I'm gonna learn things that I haven't exactly looked at yet. So I'm gonna be asking questions of myself. I'm gonna have to look at things, like don't expect me to know everything, but we're learning together. That's the whole point. This is a very vulnerable thing to do because a lot of wine people like to, or a lot of people in the world like to like know all the time what they're talking about. But right now, like you're learning with me. So I'll probably look back at this in a couple years and be like, oh my gosh, like I learned so much since then. And if you're Italian, if you're from here, apologies if I make some mistake, but as I go through, the idea is to clear out those mistakes and get everything correct in my notes, and or like correct, maybe have like a little bit of messiness and stuff, but ideally I understand everything. So, but it's a process. Immediately south of the how do you say that, Marche region on the Adriatic coast, Abruzzo. So Abruzzo, I like to go like this now. I'm gonna pull this here, and we go geography / climate, okay? And then we want to be able to think about the influences here. So Adriatic Sea. And then I'm gonna pull up this as well. Topographical I'm gonna pull this down here. How does that work? Oh, you guys haven't been able to see what I've been searching up, sorry. There. Topographical map of Italy. Let's pull it up a bit because you don't need to see all of that. And then I'm going to want to do this. I'm gonna do something really cool. Ready for it? And this actually is a cool fact, is a cool thing that doing, oh my gosh, I can't speak. Working from a cool program like Canva, not sponsored, just saying stuff, has allowed me to be able to do. And I've always like had a vision for doing this, but I never really was able to because I just didn't know how to make that happen. I thought about like gluing and tracing and all that stuff, but now it's possible. So kind of like the best I can. Obviously maps are different, the way the angles that they cover and stuff, but look at that. Okay, so cool. I'm gonna make them a little more transparent, but I like to be able to see now the hills because they're important. We don't have the wine appellations on here, which is kind of annoying, and that's going to be a major issue actually. So we're going to go like this: Abruzzo wine map. And we're going to want to understand the most important regions there. So when you, ooh, this is a nice one too. I'm just gonna put it over here. Oh, again. Sorry, I do a lot of like exhaling here. I'm not actually upset about things. I just kind of go, oh no, that kind of stuff. You don't really need to see invoices right now. Okay. Boom. There's another reminder of what we're dealing with. So when it comes to, I don't know why they come on so blurry, but here we go. When it comes to these regions, right, we have something called DOCs, and then we have DOCGs. So, I'm gonna pull this. Abruzzo. So within Abruzzo, we have DOC. It's more difficult for a wine region to be a DOCG than a DOC. So it's like Denominazione Origine Controllata. It's like a controlled origin product thing. And G is like also guaranteed. Hopefully it's guaranteed anyway, but DOCG is just like extra bonus points. If you're a region and you're DOCG, like good for you. Does it mean the wine's better? Probably not, but the highest quality, it doesn't mean it by itself, but the highest quality wines in Italy are often from DOCG areas. There are many producers that are just calling their wine table wine, not using any of these rules, but generally DOCGs you can expect like at least like, I don't know, more identity, more consistency among the products, sometimes whatever. Let's move on. So DOCGs are the first thing that I want to make sure I'm knowing about. So this one isn't showing us our DOCGs. So we want to make sure for the exam I'm studying for, which is the advanced sommelier exam, I want to make sure that I know that if there's a DOCG somewhere, like I want to know what's going on there. So I'm gonna go appellations. Okay. So we want to know how many probably there are in all of Abruzzo. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 with 2, 9, 2 of 9 are DOCG. Okay. Then I might not list them all here, but I'm gonna go, at least I'm gonna know what's going on, because Abruzzo, not gonna lie, is not the most like significantly important wine region in all of Italy, and because we're doing a little overview, like I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on it. So we have this thing, Colli Terramane Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, DOCG. You probably don't need that second one. So we got that boy. And make them bigger. We have Tertolesi / Tulum, not Mexico, DOCG. Okay, and then this also shows us what wines you can make there. Take note, like 21 hectares. Let's see how big. How large is 21 hectares? So I can put it into proper words for you guys. Is that a hectare? Okay, the International Rugby Field pictured above. That's one. So only 21 of those in this region, which actually sounds kind of big, but this is pretty small in the grand scheme of things. So Tertolesi, it's not like I'm not gonna go, like I gotta be really on the ball about that one. We want to know what they're making though. So interesting to note, and this comes back to the rules of DOCG. In Colli Terramane Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, DOCG, you can only make red wines. So I might go R only because I know what that means. Normale Reserva. So those are common terms that we're going to see throughout Italy, and Normale Reserva. So I'm not, and sometimes Gran Selezione in Chianti Classico is one, for example. I'm not going to put the whole Normale Reserva because I know what those are. So sometimes there's a lot of like crazy abbreviations in my notes, but I'll try to explain them as I go. So Tertolesi, here we have, you can make red wine. You can make varietal wine, meaning you can make wine from the varieties Pecorino and Passerina. I know Pecorino is a white grape, but Passerina is a white grape, okay, also. So, cool to know that. So you can make Rosso, you can make varietal, Pecorino, Passerina, and you can make Spumante Bianco, which is sparkling white Bianco. Spumante, I don't know. Okay, so that's what you can make in those places. Now we're gonna look in this, and this one's a little bit bigger. Okay, so here we have some more information as well. The climate, we want to, obviously it's Mediterranean because we're in the middle of the Mediterranean, so sometimes your brain actually has to think and you have to like consider this. This is a pretty dry place, so, and it's very low. Adriatic Sea, average 9 to 11. I'm just gonna put pretty much at sea level. Now, okay. So, again, like, if you live there and you're like, dude, I live in this appellation and it's not at sea level, I'm sorry, because I'm still learning right now. So we're gonna go, okay, look, see? We have to double check everything. Pretty much at sea level. No. Okay. Varying elevations, because we have the, oh, I think these are kind of tricky to spell. I'm a good speller, guys. Apennine Mountains. Yeah, there's only one P and there's two N's. There we go. And so you can see they actually run like boom all through Italy. Very interesting situation, right? So it's pretty much a factor in almost all, and then it goes and it becomes part of the Alps over there. Okay, cool. So again, it's just like all about cross-referencing all the time. And then what I'm gonna do is look through here and make sure that there's nothing that's crazy going on, like some crazy grape I've never heard of, or you know, some really long requirement for aging. So here we go. Minimum alcohol 12.5, whatever. That's like pretty typical. For the major appellations of the world, I'm gonna want to know that, but because this is a smaller one, whatever. So not whatever, but it's not really important to be writing down, because you can only like, well, I think you can absorb a lot, but I just don't want to, you don't want to like make this too complicated, because then you get, it's like, you can always go deeper later. That's basically it. So interestingly, remember how we have Normale and Reserva for this appellation? The Normale, minimum 1 year. Whoops. We have a minimum of 1 year of aging for that Normale from November 1st in 2 months in bottle. So you need to age, you can't just sell it. You can't just make it and sell it at Christmas time. No. If you're going to use this name on your bottle, you're going to have to age it at least 1 year. And then if it says Reserva on it, you're going to have to age it at least 3 years in oak or, so minimum 1 of those 3 years has to be in oak or chestnut, and 6 of them have to be in bottle. Now, like I said, this is going to be something that I'm not going to take like every note on, because there's so many of these in all of Italy. If I had a lot of time, I definitely would, and the major ones, it's important too. So minimum 90% Montepulciano. Now that is a grape. So we're gonna go like this. Rosso only, 90%. So Mont, because it's in the name, I know what that means. Max 10. Sangio. Now, Sangiovese is a really popular grape in Italy, so again, I know what that will mean. So then what I'm gonna do here is go varieties. So what grape varieties are important in Abruzzo? Well, now we have one to add to that. We have Montepulciano. So then what I'll do, what does Montepulciano taste like? Grape. So I have like my own understanding of this, but I just want to really show you guys what's going on. So there we are. Something to note that's interesting is that we have a lot of loose clusters here, pictures of them, which means that it's great because you don't get a lot of mold and like rot in between those clusters. Some other varieties are really tight, but these seem to be pretty loose, meaning the grapes are pretty loose from each other, versus Pinot Noir, for example. And this is part of the reason why Pinot Noir is so expensive, is because you can see, look how tight they are together. That would be a cool little little video. I'm gonna put that over in my other screen so I can do that later, because that's really interesting. So distraction, Montepulciano. Okay, so we have deep color, and I know that from before, but also it's saying red fruit flavors, so that's cool. I'd like to find a couple sources for that, but so let's do that actually. So it says that in better quality wines and those which have aged, you can expect to taste herbal notes such as oregano, savory tobacco. So herbal notes are really common in Italian wine in general. I'm gonna look for a source that I really like. Let's see. It's also important to note, and it says right here, that Montepulciano is a grape, and Vino Nobile di Montepulciano is a wine made from Sangiovese from a place called Montepulciano. So it is not the same grape. Well, the most important thing is like the fact that it's here. This is Guild Sounds great. So what does it say about it? All about the grape. It's a red grape. It's even part of the name of the appellation. There's another one called Cerezuelo d'Abruzzo. Okay, so that is also, even though it's a DOC, we do see it a lot, and there's a particular producer that makes it, really importantly, really well. And so it's pretty expensive, it's hard to find, and we're gonna get to that soon, okay? Not to leave you hanging or anything, but hang, because it's very interesting. And it's a delicious wine, and it's so, like, it's just a great person doing something great in that region, and that's an example of why, even though it's DOC, and there's a lot of great DOCs out there, so I'm not bashing DOCs, but even though it doesn't have, it's not like automatically in the top level, like, it's important to explore the producers of a certain region, because if you didn't know that this was an important, that there's an important producer there, going the producer route and finding the most expensive wines in Abruzzo might help you find that this is here. Because if someone says, who's a really important person making wine in Cereswallo d'Abruzzo, and you're like, I don't know. If you go through the producer route, like look at fancy wine lists, or if you look at wine prices, which we'll do in a minute, then you can make sure that you're not missing anything really important for your study purposes. So, so in it notes that lighter color, and this is what I know to be true from this place, so obviously it's true. There's lighter colored wines from there and fruitier style rosés, but there's some serious rosés, some like lighter color wines. Although statistics vary, Montepulciano is roughly 6th most planted grape in Italy. Okay, so in Marche, Rosso Cornero and Rosso Piceno, yes, we know those appellations from the Marche region, which remember is a bit north. There's minimal Montepulciano grow elsewhere in the world. So now we want to find out. See, the fact that it said that it's flat, it's not true. Abruzzo has scenic mountains. As high as 2.7 kilometers. Guys, we're not pretty much flat. See how here, it's like flat, and then it gets mountainous. So it's important to look at multiple sources, because sometimes things can get lost in translation. I don't think that the person who wrote that thing where I got 9 to 11 meters was thinking that it was all flat, but you could have understood it that way. So really cross-reference a lot as much as you can, and you're still going to make mistakes later where you're like, I thought Abruzzo was flat, and someone's like, no dude, like there's a lot going on. Or you'll go to Abruzzo and you're like, what, am I right, it was flat? So just make sure before you let things into your deep knowledge part of your brain to really like make sure that they're true as to the best of your ability. It's going to happen where you believe not true things. If you believe people, I believe people when they say things. I'm starting to get better. Anyways, the coast is warm and dry, while inland the altitude increases, it's hotter and colder. Okay, so that is because you're higher in the air, and there's a lot of reasons, because the Adriatic moderates the temperature, and then you get altitude. So we want to make sure Apennines provide altitude up to 2,700 meters. And so that's going to do something called increasing the continentality. And that means that it's more continental inland. So they're going to get more cold in the winter and more hot in the summer, both because they're further away from this moderating influence of the Adriatic, and because they're higher up, there's less particles in the air to sort of like keep the temperature constant. So like there's less clouds and stuff. The air's thinner. It kind of just, this is my understanding, it kind of like I don't want the explanation for everything. Normally when I teach you guys stuff, I like to really research it before, but I can't research everything all up to, I didn't know what we're going to talk about here. So as the elevation's higher, like you just have colder nights and hotter days because the air is thinner, and if you're further away from a moderating influence. You also have every increase of 100 meters in altitude, you're going to have a decrease of 1 degree Celsius on average. So it gets colder, it takes longer for grapes to ripen, but you have more direct sunlight, you have less clouds as well in the summer, so it just does different things to the wines, okay? So, that was a long explanation. And you have more diurnal shifts. Diurnal shifts, and they're not the same thing. I'm putting the slash, but it just does both, okay? Continentality is winter versus summer, and like diurnal shift is how much the temperature in the day is different than the night. So if you think about being on a mountain, this comes more back to the thin air thing. Like the temperatures change quicker. When the sun goes down, it's cold. When the sun's up, it's hotter. You're also closer to the sun, so that makes a difference as well. So we have increased continentality and diurnal shift because of that altitude here. And then also, I did mention this earlier, but it's dry I think it was like, okay, I'm not gonna put numbers here because it's like, sometimes I would, but now that you guys are here, I want to make sure everything is as perfect as I can be. But you know, I'm just gonna show you like I like to give myself a range, so I will. And if this is wrong, I try to make it as correct as I can here. But I just want to give you the real experience of how I prepare usually for studying regions. But this just gives me an idea, and that little thing, like if I say ish or put that, like it's just a general sense. It's like not dry, because there's some places where it's like very little rain, and other places where it's relatively dry and it's at like a lot more rain. So it's I put that there for reference. Okay, so the high altitude as well as the sloping and rocky hillsides that are so respected by winemakers, wine critics, and so this sounds like a real cool place, guys. Abruzzo Mountains. Like, now I want a picture. I bet you they're epic. Ready? Woo! Okay, I was expecting a little more epicness, but okay, see? If you have a vineyard up here versus under the clouds, like someone's getting sun and someone's not. Also a cool thing to explain later. So, Abruzzo. Let's even go as far as going high elevation vineyard. I bet you we can find a picture of a vineyard that's like high up and you can see the difference versus the low ones. Like, that kind of conveys the vibes. So it's like, you can see that there's clearly a range of altitude. The other thing that mountains do is they provide you choices of different directions in which to plant your vineyard, okay? So you can plant a vineyard facing south, and this office I have here, it faces south. And as a result, in the winter when the sun doesn't go as high in the air, I get a lot of sunlight directly into here because it kind of like goes along the horizon more. And I just get more sun in general than if I was facing north. And obviously if you're west versus east, you have day versus night, and those all impact wine regions differently. So it provides different wines because the grapes ripen differently and you have different flavors, and you have it just adds another crazy thing into the mix. It's like to the person you are today, when you were little, you I don't know, someone made you really dislike orange, so now you're the person today you don't really like orange. And so that event, that thing, that person in your life, that influence made you a certain way today. And the wines, like, obviously you are not the fact that you don't like orange, they are not the fact that they're facing south, but they are different because they face south, just even so slightly. Maybe we don't even realize the difference, but when it comes to planting direction, you do. There's a lot of things that in the winemaking process that we don't know if we're gonna actually see come through. So we came onto this document to learn about here how it actually tastes, and it's not really telling us that. So thanks, Jeff. This was a very cool article to read actually, but it didn't really tell us what we're looking for. But we did find that it's like supposedly deep color and red fruit flavors. So I think we're gonna find more of that as we go. Let's go here. Abruzzo. Okay, so there's just a little bit on Abruzzo because it's not that significant of a region in relative to the rest of Italy. Now, if we go to the expert guide on Gilson, we'll find a lot more. But Abruzzo is a huge contributor to Italy's lower quality wine lake. Oh, I didn't mean to say that so loud. Sorry if you're Abruzzese or whatever they call it. But there's a lot of bulk wine in Italy, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people like drink a lot of wine, and they don't, like, fine wine is not a thing for most people in the world actually. So even though we study the most fine wines of the world, people like drink wine, especially in Europe. Like, it's really common to have like really inexpensive wines, and great places that are fertile or flatter generally, where you can use a lot of machines, are suitable for that style of wine making. But within every region there's going to be a lower end producer, and there's going to be a really, really culty, expensive high-end producer, and that's also why we look at the producers. So the Montepulciano grape is the region's most cultivated, and the second most, see, the last one said Oh, the second most planted red grape in Italy. That's pretty interesting. And that speaks volumes to the amount of bulk because we don't see it like in every region. So varieties would all go here. Second most planted. Oh here, oh my gosh, we're silly, it's right there. Ripe, tannic, full bodies, it easily does do that, but then it's probably gonna say, but you can also make it this way. So it easily produces ripe, tannic, full-bodied wines of deep color. So we're gonna go intense body color. So I like to say, like, for me, if a wine has a full body, it's likely has higher alcohol. So I'll look at if I don't have the chance to taste a wine, I can't really tell myself, I'll look at the alcohol level, and relative to what it should be for that style of wine, if it's high, it's going to be a fuller body example of that, and if it's lower, it's going to be a lighter body example of that. So I bet you Montepulciano tends to be in the higher alcohol range. Like, it's probably not, and we saw a law actually earlier saying it was a minimum 12.5. Well, some regions produce 12.5% alcohol wines, like, all day, and that's even high for them. So for Montepulciano, that's the very lowest that you're allowed. It's probably most of the wines are sitting at 14% or so, and that's the beginning of full body, so 14, 15, sometimes even 16% alcohol. Okay, so tannin. We're not going to talk about tannins today because they're complicated. They're not complicated, they're just confusing, and I want to keep going, and we're running out of time. Oh my gosh. Much of the wine is forgettable. Oh, no. But sometimes it's not. Like, if you're not being artsy, like if you're just screaming, it's kind of forgettable. But if you're like singing with your heart and soul, that's when good winemakers make great wine. It's like singing with your heart and soul. You know what? I'm gonna put that there. Singing with your heart and soul. It's like a good thing to explain. That's kind of a way to understand like why someone would ever spend a lot of money on wine, is because they're like singing with their heart and soul when they're making it. They're they're spending more money to make it sometimes, but often it's like a visionary who's doing it, and they are really passionate, and you can just taste the passion. It sounds weird, but it's really true. I can taste a wine and be like, I know that the person who made this is super passionate, because you can't achieve that level if you're not like one with your wine, one with your grapes, and oftentimes one with the vineyard. So you can have someone who's one with the vineyard and then someone who's one with the wine. Often though, the best wines are when one person is one with the vineyard, where they walk the vineyard, they know the vineyard, and then they see the wine through to being made, and they're one with the wine, and they just like they understand how the wine behaves. It's like a relationship with the wine. Because this is, I have goosebumps. Okay, I could go on. So while efforts to raise the region's prestige culminated in 2003 evolution of, also 2003, guys, was just a really hot year in Europe, and you'll hear people reference it and be like, oh my gosh, 2003, in the wine world at least, it's like, those wines they're different than the rest because of how hot it was. Also adds a different thing, right? Like, the year that the grapes grew, if the weather's different, it's going to make them different later on. How big of a difference depends on the year, depends on the event that impacted you as a child, how different you'll be as a person later on. Like, how big was that event? How different than normal was that event? And how was it different? Did someone bring you onto the moon and say, you're the best thing ever, literally, like take you into outer space? Like, that'd be a pretty cool thing, and it'd probably make you a better person later on. Or did they like drop you accidentally on the sidewalk? Probably not going to make you a great person, but that's pretty bad. So it'll probably decrease your overall, like maybe you have a big bump, maybe you get concussions. I'm going on, but I feel like I should just go on. I should let myself go on, right? So 2003 was pretty different, and it was hot. So for some regions that's good, for other regions it's bad. Depends. A lot of people were just doing different things with their winemaking practices and vineyards because they had to experiment. They had different circumstances that they hadn't experienced before, and with those they had to do different things. So we see a lot of interesting. It's definitely like an interesting vintage. Whether it's better or worse depends. Mostly people don't prefer that much heat, but in some cases, yeah. Okay. Okay, another important DOC. Montepulciano d'Abruzzo and here, even already in this little thing, they're talking about who the people making the wine. Valentini, Emidio Pepe, they're both like banging. Very key, important people in this region. So I'm gonna put them up here. Producers. So it says here that they gotta bring them back down to earth. Okay, I know that you're happy about yourself. You know what? Let's leave him big. Let's let him be. It's good to love yourself and shine bright, right? Okay, producers. So we have Emidio Pepe. So now immediately I'm wondering, like, I've heard of these before, right? And I've even tasted them. So I'm gonna refer to this as Valentini itself. So what I'll do now, and I'll go like this, actually, link them together, because interestingly, and I'll go like this, link that to this, put Y, both releasing wines as Montepulciano d'Abruzzo DOC, although we do know that, I just know this from before because I've had the wine, that they do make a Ceres, Valentini makes a Cereswallo d'Abruzzo. I'm not 100% sure what Emidio Pepe does, but the point is that, no. The point. Releasing, whatever. They're not, it's not all their wines, but they're both releasing wines as Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. They're reds. There we go. Reds as Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, because sometimes people don't want to follow all of those rules. Remember all those rules, like for the specific ones, in order to use that word you have to do what they want, and a lot of producers, whether it's out of principle or actual practice, they're like, forget that, I don't want to do that. Okay, so they do their own thing and they will downgrade their wine on the label but ride on the laurels of their name, and these guys are able to do that because the wines they make are incredible. And people know that. They don't need the appellation, versus if some random person just started making wine, if it's from the DOCG, more people will probably buy it and you can sell it for more than if they just make it as Italian wine on the label, which is the most basic level of, and it's Vino Tavola, table wine, sorry. I think that's the most basic level. I wonder, there might be just a vino category as well, where it's like literally the grapes can come from anywhere, you can do anything you want. But these ones, like, you have to have specific grapes, you have to have a certain amount of aging time. Sometimes there's like amounts that you can, like, there's a lot of ridiculous rules sometimes, especially when it comes to champagne. It's insane. The level of rules are insane. So naturalistic Emidio Pepe, I might go like this, put him here. Naturalistic, and we're going to investigate these more, and we want to know the pricing just so we can contextualize them in our minds. Requires, so Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, minimum 85% Montepulciano grape, and the DOCG raises that to 9, so that's Colline Terramane Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. So it is essentially like a smaller area. This isn't really the best map for showing us what's going on, but we have the Montepulciano d'Abruzzo area and then the Classico, so it's like a smaller zone. That's like the heart of now I need to pull up the map. Generally, the like this here. So you can see this. Likely, there's a lot of, likely this orange area, which is smaller and has the DOCG rights, is better for wine production. So I might even go like this. Okay, we're getting really crafty. Like, I did not cover nearly as much as we were supposed to today. But now you guys can ride along with me as I study, and I won't explain as much stuff. Okay. So if I had a lot of time, I would figure out exactly why this area, geographically, soil-wise, like why historically is it the higher quality area. Okay? But we're not going to do that today because we want to keep moving along. We're supposed to cover a lot more than just Abruzzo, but here we are. And it's good. I'm happy to explain because it's fun, and also it's good to learn. Together. The DOCG raises the minimum to 90%, stipulates 1 year of aging, 2 years in bottle. So Reserva wines are aged for a minimum of 3 years. We talked about that before. Trebbiano d'Abruzzo accounts for most, so this is what we're going to want to put into here too. Trebbiano, and Trebbiano, guys, is a white grape. Most Abruzzo whites are Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. So it's like Trebbiano, the grape from Abruzzo. And may be produced from either Trebbiano Toscano or Trebbiano Abruzzese. So then we're going to go like this. Let's go this way. So we have Montepulciano. We want to link it. Trebbianos. We have Trebbiano Toscano, and we have Trebbiano Abruzzese. Is that an S? Yeah. Which is also known, perhaps mistakenly, as Bombino. Now, again, if we had a lot of time, we would get to the bottom of that, but we're not going to do that today. So that's kind of the idea. Now, if Abruzzo is like a smaller one, but what I like to do after this is I'll pull up Wine Searcher, and this is going to show us the cost of wines. It'll tell you a little bit. I don't usually read that much into this. Sometimes I'll skim it and just make sure like that I'm not Coca-Cola. So I'm going to put an others category here. Other grapes that you can find. Pecorino. Passerina. Sangiovese. And Cocchiola. Just because I know that the style of the exam that I'm taking, I know that they could say like, where in Italy might you find Cocchiola? Not so much like, I don't know. So that's just something I don't want them to pull a fast one on me that way, you know? So that's for the quartermaster sommeliers. And this is the advanced level. Okay, that I'm studying for. So yeah, sometimes I'll look a little bit, just Gran Sasso, one of Italy's highest peaks. It's not surprising that, and now that makes this wrong. Altitude up to in the highest peak, Gran Sasso. Obviously, there's probably not a vineyard on top of Gran Sasso, but it's cool to know. I also like Jeopardy, and sometimes Jeopardy has questions like, what is a really high peak in Abruzzo? Okay. It's not surprising that it's a perfect taste for you. So I just said I don't really read this, which I don't, and now here we are. Okay, so this is where it gets juicy. I'm gonna go most expensive. And then Valentini, there we go. Okay, So there's a few things I look at when I'm looking at these. This is giving me context of like the actual wines that are coming from here, like how much do they cost, who's making them, what are they? And I'll often use wine lists as well for this. So that would be another option. Like a few great restaurants have really long, like hundreds of pages of wine lists. And from those, I'll search Command F, cheeky Command F, and I'll find out what those are and learn more that way. So here we have Valentini. And what is going on with Valentini? So the fact that this is 1500 in popularity, that's really popular and it's expensive. That means that it's something we should definitely know about, okay? So this is just their basic, oh, come on, okay. We do love you, Valentini, but that's just a bit excessive, don't you think? Okay, well that's a little bit excessive as well. Can we meet in the middle? There we go. Okay, Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, and that is going to be 300. I'll just round because like it's $300. And the fact that it made it in here means that it's popular enough for me to include. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see this guy. That's like decently popular, but it's not actually. So I'm not really gonna worry too much about it, but we're gonna come back to the rest of them. But first I'm gonna look to see what else I can find from Valentini. And there aren't that many on here, so there. Trebbiano d'Abruzzo also, and that's really popular, guys. 423rd, that's like unheard of for a random region. Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, because these producers are really famous and they make great wine. So there we go. Let's see if there's any other. Cereswallo, Montepulciano. That's I've actually had that one. It's very cool. Tasted it in Oregon actually, interestingly. It's very rare rosé. So that's kind of gonna be enough for Valentini now, and I'll probably look a little bit into exactly like who the people are, what they're doing, what their history is, why they're you know, like just kind of understand a little bit more because they're pretty significant, right? And this is why they're important to the studies, is because they're really like actually bringing the region up, because look at these great wines that they're making from a place where they said most of the wines are forgettable. Well, they're not forgettable if you know Valentini. Okay, I almost made it into a heart, but like it's someone's name, so let's not do that. Okay, so now we're gonna go Amidio Pepe, and we're gonna go Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, again with the craziness here. Yep. Most expensive now. I'm gonna go here. Brunello. So then we want to know, like, what is Brunello? Whoops, I made a spelling error there. Okay. Vigneto Brunello. Montepulciano. I'm gonna put this because we're gonna run out of space. Pepe Brunello. It could be a village, it could be... They're saying, look, he's the king of Abruzzo varietals. Vigneto. So, apologies, but what does that mean? Oh, it's a vineyard. Okay. If I knew Italian, I would have already known that. And studying teaches you a bit of different languages. So that is a single vineyard, which means it just comes from one vineyard, which is a pretty big deal. So we're going to want to come back to this guy and just know about him. But we want to know about that he also makes a Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. There we go. Okay. So You know what? I'm actually even just gonna, because this is not a major region, I'm just gonna cut it there. And that's gonna be my producer thing. I'm gonna go here and go Amidio Pepe. We're gonna look at him for a sec. Producing since 1964. I don't really like to pull from the actual producer website. I like to find an importer because either they're too humble or they're not. And so this way we just get the actual information from a separate point of view. Okay, so here we have, we also have hot Mediterranean climate, which we already knew that it was, but let's just throw it in here anyway. The hot part is like important, like hot puts it in your mind that like, oh, it's hot there, and dry. So what else do we want to know about this? We wanted to know that the organic thing is something to remember, but you know, like certain areas it's easier to do organic. So if you are in a dry place that's warm, organic, if it's not too dry, and biodynamic practices, which are really restricted ways of farming and winemaking, you have to it's easier if it's dry because you get less rot that you need to guard against. I was just trying to see if it's raining, and I think it is. So what's going on? The philosophy, they're still using the old tradition. So here's back to 2003. The wineries approach to viticulture firmly rooted in Abruzzese tradition, as over 2/3 of the estate vines are fastidious, pergola trained and labor intensive, which helps prevent sunburn. So pergolas, when they're like, you can walk underneath them, but you have to reach up to do all that. Imagine the arm workout. A distinct advantage because in 2003 it was hot and there's a lot of sun, but they were shaded. The grapes hang below the pergola, and so that's a good thing. The remainder of the estate's vines are trellised more conventionally, which ensures success in cooler years, because if it's cold, then you don't get as much sun and heat underneath the pergola for those grapes. So it's important to make sure that you remove leaves and stuff to make sure the sun does hit those grapes. But if you have normal up and down like vineyards, when you picture a vineyard in your mind, those might be better in cooler years, is what they're saying. No mechanization. Okay, so what we take away from this, it's a pretty long time to leave it after you're making your wine. Valentini. We're just gonna look the same thing here. Come on. Yes. Oh. I kind of liked what I was saying. So Valentini, there may have been no greater cult figure in Italian wine than the late Valentini. So the mythic Valentini Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. Okay, let's say like from a random Italian wine region, this is why it's important to know the people, because this guy's a legend. For a random Italian wine region, having a white wine $180 is pretty unheard of. Like, you have to either be a celebrity making that wine, like a big one, or you have to be like something crazy more is going on that you don't understand, or like the Romans planted the vineyard. That doesn't exist, but it's like there's something crazy going on if there's a random region making really expensive wine, especially white wine, because oftentimes certain regions are known for making expensive wine, but if they're not, then if you're paying that much, like, you need to dig deeper, which is why these prices beg us to dig deeper, understanding Valentini a little more. So this extraordinary wine became legendary due to the intensity, complexity, and age-worthiness. And the legend was only fueled by its extreme rarity and his reluctance to talk about how he made it. So we like culty wines. When people are culty, like, scarcity is great, right? What is known is that he ripped up the existing plantings of the characterless Toscano clone. Remember how there's two types? And he replaced it with an ancient local clone of Abruzzese. And he used Roman winemaking techniques. He didn't make it every year. And he only bottled 5%. Oh my gosh. So this, it's not like necessarily study, but it's like, whoa, this is like interestingness. So this is when we go like this. because I know Trebbiano Toscano. For Trebbiano d'Abruzzo and OMG. So this is when I go back, didn't talk about his wines or methods often. He only bottled 5%. He ripped up. So that means when I say he ripped up, he like literally pulled out the grapevines and he was like, I want to plant ones that I believe are meant for this area. So and only 5% of the grapes made it to bottle. Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. So back when I said, oh, he makes Trebbiano d'Abruzzo too, now I'm like, yeah, he makes Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. Like, oh my gosh, he does. See how we just learned something? It's crazy. And again, I'm being pretty vulnerable by sharing this because people like to, I like to feel like I'm providing like awesome education all the time and be a strong source. And so when I'm learning to show that I don't know a lot of like things that maybe people feel like I should know, it takes guts to do that, but you can only get better like if you study. And this is I want to show you the process of it. So I have to show you how we go from, oh, he makes Trebbiano d'Abruzzo too, to yeah, he makes Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. So I made it to make it to bottle. Well, let's say made it because we don't know if that's still the stats correctly. Not in every year. So then he's waiting for the best years to make wine. Because like the weather's not good enough this year, so we're not going to do it. He didn't make wine every year. He passed away and after making this wine for 50 vintages, but his son hasn't missed a beat. Oh, that must have been sad the first time by yourself. In fact, they may be even better than before. He has more consistency and elegance, while sacrificing none of its transcendent characteristic. Whether made by Eduardo or Francesco, production of Trebbiano has always been microscopic, making the wine almost impossible to source. Yet its elusiveness is about to jump severalfold due to a freak fall blizzard, which destroyed. Oh no! So here's what we're gonna do. Wow, they named the blizzard. They named it. Oh my goodness. So I'm gonna put that in here. Just cause like it's visual, helps you remember, and that's a cool like little thing to explain and a way to remember things, right? So that's crazy. Now I feel sad. It's an adventure. See how you don't know what you're gonna study. It's not just like flashcards. Well, sometimes flashcards can be fun too, but right now like this is exploring. He trained his vines in the classic Tendone system. So I'm gonna put more here. So I don't know what that Tendone system is right now. Oh, I should have put it down here. And I really gotta go, so I'm not gonna search it up, but I will probably later. Well, it says high canopy at right angles. Now we're going a little deeper than we maybe need to, but so that this storm like that really doing this was bad because this was so devastating. It was bad because it made the 2013 storm so devastating. Oh, many of the vine trunks were snapped into two. He's nearly as media shy as his father was, but he did report that half of the vines were damaged, unfortunately in the best zones. So we have that 5% of the grapes making it in, and then we have even less. That's crazy, man. Wow. Okay, well, with that, I gotta go, guys. Gotta go to a wine tasting, actually, funny enough. And thanks for hanging out with me. This was really fun. Should have put that over there. Whatever. Anyways, I hope that you guys learned something. I don't know if anybody is still watching or if I'm gonna post this. I probably will. But yeah. Bye.